Albert Camus' essay, The Myth of Sisyphus, addresses the one truly serious philosophical problem, that is, suicide. Camus asks whether life is worth living in a universe that appears to offer no rational meaning, no divine purpose, and no ultimate hope. He begins from the premise that human beings naturally long for clarity, unity, and purpose, but the world meets this longing with unreasonable silence. This confrontation between the human need for meaning and the world's indifference produces the feeling of the absurd. The absurd is not found in the world alone, nor in humanity alone, but in the tension between them, a divorce between what we want and what we find. The absurd must be recognized clearly and then lived with clarity without cheating. The central question is whether realizing that life is absurd necessarily leads to suicide. For Camus, the answer is no. Suicide, like the philosophical leap of faith taken by existentialist thinkers such as Kierkegaard, Jaspers, and Chesterton, constitutes an escape from the absurd. It attempts to resolve the contradiction by destroying one of its terms. Suicide destroys the conscious self. The leap destroys the demand for rational clarity by appealing to an irrational God or a transcendent meaning. Camus calls such evasions philosophical suicide. He refuses both physical suicide and the leap of faith because both avoid the truth of the absurd. He proposes to live with the absurd intact, holding the contradiction constantly before one's eyes. To develop his position, Camus differentiates between the feeling of the absurd and the idea of the absurd. The feeling arises spontaneously in everyday life. The sudden weariness with mechanical routine, the shock of realizing one's own mortality, the sense of strangeness before a familiar landscape, or even one's own reflection. These moments reveal the rupture between human desires and the world's unyielding otherness. The idea of the absurd, by contrast, is the intellectual formulation of this rupture. Once recognized, it demands a consistent response. We must not suppress either side of the contradiction. We cannot reasonably hope for a transcendent solution, nor can we despair into nothingness. Instead, we must maintain conscious revolt. Revolt is the central consequence of the absurd. It is the perpetual refusal to accept the terms of absurdity passively. Revolt keeps the absurd alive because it constantly confronts the world without giving into it. It is not a form of hope, but a form of defiance. The absurd person defies the world without hoping for its transformation. This defiance restores dignity to life. A second consequence is freedom. Before recognizing the absurd, a person lives with future goals and the illusion of eternal liberty. After recognizing the absurd, all metaphysical notions of freedom vanish. There is no God, no higher destiny, no ultimate purpose that could either guarantee or limit freedom. Instead, absurd person gains a concrete, practical freedom of action without a future to plan for or an afterlife to serve. One becomes available to the present moment. Finally, the third consequence is passion. Because there is no higher meaning, the quantity of lived experiences replaces any qualitative scale of values. The absurd person seeks not the best life but the most life, a life rich in conscious experiences, aware of its own limits and fully engaged with the world. Camus illustrates this philosophy through the myth of Sisyphus. The gods condemned Sisyphus to roll a rock to the top of a mountain, only to watch it fall back each time. This eternal futile labor represents the human condition, a life of repetitive effort that never reaches a final lasting achievement. However, Camus calls Sisyphus the absurd hero. He is conscious of his torment. He knows that his labor is endless and meaningless according to any transcendent standard. But it is precisely this consciousness that makes him superior to his fate. During the descent, when he walks back toward the rock, Sisyphus has time to reflect. In that pause, he becomes fully aware of the absurdity of his condition. That awareness transforms everything: his scorn for the gods, his hatred of death, and his passion for life turn the punishment into a kind of victory. He is stronger than his rock because he knows he will never succeed but continues anyway. Camus concludes the essay by saying that one must imagine Sisyphus happy. This startling claim follows from the logic of the absurd. Happiness and the absurd arise from the same earth. There is no contradiction between recognizing the futility of existence and finding joy within it. Sisyphus loves the world, the sun, the water, the warm stone, and the sea. He loves life itself without needing it to have a higher purpose. His rock belongs to him, his fate is his own. By accepting his burden fully and consciously, he turns suffering into a human victory. The struggle itself, Camus writes, is enough to fill a man's heart. Camus' essay, The Myth of Sisyphus, offers neither despair nor easy consolation. It rejects suicide as a cowardly escape and rejects faith as an intellectual evasion. It proposes a life of clear revolt, concrete freedom, and passionate engagement with the present. The absurd does not destroy meaning, it clears away false meanings so that life can be lived for itself. Sisyphus, rolling his rock eternally, becomes the model of the absurd hero, conscious, defiant, and despite everything, happy.